man. See you there. This is your old pal, Mr. Sketchy. I'm out here busking. I'm playing a little jazz ukulele. It might sound weird to you, but that's because you don't understand jazz. Jazz is all about the notes I'm not playing. You see, you expect me to play a note that goes with the last note and all the other notes, but then I pull out something wild. That's called jazz, kids. Now listen, you can check out my other channel. There's a Patreon attached if you want to learn some jazz ukulele. But this is for the sketching show. Now I've got a little bit of downtime because there's nobody coming through here right now. So I thought I'd do a sketching video for you. So would you like that, kids? I can't hear you. I'm serious, I can't hear you. I maybe need to get my ears checked. I think I have a serious medical issue. There's like a bird right there, and it looks like it's yelling at me. But I can't hear anything. That's alright though, you know why? You don't have to be able to hear to draw. Alright? So, let's do some sketching, and I'll see you in a minute. Okay, so today we're going to be drawing boxes. We're also going to be practicing drawing with colored pencil. You're going to need colored pencil, pen, and a regular pencil. So I'm going to start off by dividing the page here into 4 equal sections. My page is landscape orientation, but yours can be portrait orientation. That's fine. I just do landscape because that's the format of the video. We're going to start by drawing 4 little dots, kind of making a diamond shape. You want the dot above and below to be a little bit closer together than the 2 that are to the side. And we're going to connect them into a diamond. Alright, just like that. It should be a little bit shorter and a little bit wider. We're going to draw vertical lines going down. And then we're going to try to draw parallel lines to the top edges to make the bottom of the box. We're going to start. This one's just going to be a simple box. Alright, so we want those lines to be parallel as possible. They don't have to be perfect the first time, just kind of work on it, try to get them parallel. I'm actually going to fix this one because it's not quite as parallel as I'd like. But that looks a little bit better. Alright, now I'm going to fix that. Get rid of that. Alright, so the next thing I'm going to do is draw a little sundial spike. Now I use this to show which way the light is coming from when I shade these sketchbook objects. So I'm going to make the light coming from kind of over my left shoulder back behind me. So the shadow from my little spike is going the other direction. And that's going to kind of show where the light's coming from, so you can understand why I'm shading the areas I'm shading. Alright, so next I'm going to add lines on top with colored pencil. I'm going to do my drawing step. So I sketched it, now I'm drawing it in. I'm going to use the colored pencil for this one. I want to carefully add those lines over my sketch. Alright, beautiful. You can take it real slow and easy. Try to make them as perfect as you can. There's my verticals. And we're finished with the cube drawing. It's not really a cube, it's a box drawing. And I'm going to shade it. So I'm going to shade the top and the left side very lightly. I'm using the side of my colored pencil, and I'm trying to match the diagonal lines that I used to draw the edges of the box. I'm going to fill in this top gap here, just in case my strokes were a little bit short, and also the bottom. Next, I'm going to color the left-hand side. I'm going to do kind of the same thing. I'm going back over a little bit. You can darken it, fill in gaps. So same idea here. This time I'm trying to make vertical strokes to match the vertical sides of my box here. Just touching up the top edge and the bottom edge. And now we're going over to the right hand side here. And I'm going to try to draw dark here because there's going to be less light hitting it. Alright, so you can see the light's going to be hitting the left side and the top directly, just based on where we're showing the light source to be with our little spike. And now I'm shading this one in a little bit darker. If you're not getting dark enough with the side of your pencil, you can use the tip of your pencil. It takes a little longer to color everything in that way though, so I like to use the side when I can. And we just try to fill that in and carefully get all the space there. And we maybe have to touch up the top and bottom edges. That looks pretty good. So the next thing we're going to look at today is cast shadow. So a cast shadow is a shadow that's made on the surface an object's sitting on, where the object is blocking the light and preventing it from hitting the surface. So we're going to draw this in with our pencil, make it kind of a gray color, and kind of trying to figure out which direction the shadow is going to be going based on where I think the light is. And the shadow should be kind of shaped like the object, more or less. I'm going to shade that in. If we have a low light source, like a sunrise or sunset, we'll have really long shadows. If it's higher in the sky, we'll have shorter shadows. So change the length of the shadow on your spike and on your objects when you shade them in, just depending on where you want that light source to be. Alright, so next we're going to repeat that process. We're going to draw two dots pretty close together, and then two dots pretty far apart, and then connect them together. We want the edges here and here to be parallel. So start working on placing the dots so that you have parallel edges, or adjust them if your dots are off. And just start trying to get them as parallel as you can. So the first steps here are going to be the same as our last box. But we're going to make something a little more complex this time. We're going to make an open cardboard box. So I want these lines to be parallel to the top edges of those sides as well. And now I'm going to add the open box flaps. So I want these flaps to be about half as long as the opening in the box on the top. So I try to make them about that long. And I'm going to erase the edges being covered up by this flap now. This flap I'm going to make going up a little bit just so we can see it. Sometimes you position things just to make the drawing a little more clear. So we'll do these back flaps kind of coming up, and we'll do the front ones kind of going down. Alright, so you want those sides to be parallel, and then you want that edge to be parallel to the opening edge. And then we'll draw our last flap in here. And then again, we're going to erase out the edge that's being covered by the flap. I'm going to add a special surprise in the box today. I'm going to add a little kitten head. There's a little kitten in there peeking out. Do you guys know that sometimes cats really like boxes? You'll be surprised how often you see just a box laying out and you open it and there's a cat in there. It's crazy. I've made a lot of cat friends that way. For that purpose, I usually carry around a tin of sardines in my pocket. I'm going to start shading this cat a little bit. I'm going to make it so you can just see his ears kind of poking up, and the rest of it's going to be in the shadow. I'm going to make that ear a little bit smaller. I want the ear that's farther away to be just a little bit smaller, and the one that's closer to be slightly bigger. There we go. I'll add a little ear opening there. I don't want too much detail, I just want to kind of subtly indicate the cat. And now I'm going to go ahead and draw in the lines. This time I'm going to ink it. So I'm going to use a pen and just draw in the lines on top of my sketch there. I don't know, not much to say about this. You just try to carefully follow the lines you already sketched. Just make everything as neat and nice as possible. Sometimes when you're inking a line in, or when you're drawing it, you can add some little details and touches. If you want to make some like dents or tears in the edges of the box, that would be kind of cool. That would add a little bit more texture. I'm not going to worry about that. I'm going to keep it basic, but if you want to add a little bit of roughness to your edges, that might be a really nice touch. Alright, and I'm just finishing my box. That's almost all inked in now. And now I'm going to ink in the top of my kitty's head. So I'm thinking for this project today, I'm going to keep the light source coming from the same direction for each one. And then maybe next time we'll change it up. But just to practice consistency and get you practiced on easy mode, doing the cast shadows and the shading, we're just going to make them all go in the same direction. Alright, so there's our spike here. And so we're going to end up having a little bit of shadow on the cat's face, I think, because it's kind of behind the front of the box. And now I'm actually going to do my shading for this one with a pen. So I'm going to use some hatching here. So I'm just making sort of parallel diagonal lines. I'm trying to keep them tight. So try to keep them parallel, try to keep them close together, and try to keep them from touching. That's good practice. A good cross-hatching should be kind of regular and consistent, ideally. You can do it messy style if you want, but let's practice doing it as neat as possible. Once you can do it neat, it's easy to do it messy. So I think there's going to be a little cast shadow from this flap up above here. So I'm going to kind of draw where the edge of that cast shadow, I can't use my mouth, cast shadow is going to be. And then I'm going to add cross hatching into that area to make the shadow a little bit darker. That looks pretty good. I'm pretty happy with that. I think there's also going to be a little bit of a cast shadow underneath this flap here. I'm going to kind of draw where I think the edge of that is going to be. And then I will also shade that in using hatching first. And then I think I'm going to add some cross hatching. So now we're going to go the other direction. It should make little kind of diagonal boxes. Alright, looking pretty good. So next I'm going to add kind of this fold right here inside of the box and ink that. And then I'm going to add some shadow inside the box. So I think the shadow would kind of go down along this angle and then parallel across the back to the top of the opening. I'm going to do my hatching lines, trying to keep them tight and trying to keep them parallel. I'm going to do some shadow across the face here. And then get that small corner in the back. Okay, next I'm going to go the other way and do some cross hatching. Wouldn't it be fun if I added a little tail? I'm going to put this tail in. I wish I'd thought of it earlier. But I think it's kind of fun, so I'm going to add this tail. If I'd thought of it earlier, I wouldn't have inked that full back edge of the box. But here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to add a black spot on the cat's tail to cover that up. I'm going to add a couple more to make it look like it's a black and white cat. And a little bit of a black patch on its head there. Maybe one on the ear, one on the tip of this ear too. So now we got a black and white cat, but it hides my mistake from earlier. And now I'm going to finish my cross hatching there. Alright, and there's our cat in a box. Oh yeah, let's add a cast shadow. Almost forgot that. So I'm just kind of looking at the shape of the box and trying to make a similar shape for the shadow. Usually if your cast shadow is a little ambiguous, you can get away with it. You don't necessarily have to have a perfect cast shadow. It usually reads all right. So I think it's really useful to try to imagine what the cast shadow would look like. A good way to think about it is imagine that you're looking at the box from the angle the light's coming from, and the shape that that box would make should be the shape of the cast shadow. The cast shadow should be all the area that you wouldn't be able to see behind the box if you were looking at it from the direction the light's coming from. Alright, so next thing here, we're going to draw kind of a stack of boxes. We're going to have a wide box on top, and a skinny tall box, and then another wide box. So again, we draw our 4 dots. The 2 that are above each other should be close together, and the 2 that are to the side should be farther apart. Add in our diamond, drop down the edges with some vertical lines, and then add some parallel diagonals. Now we're going to drop down 3 vertical lines again. This is the tall skinny box. And then I'm going to draw the top of the large box on the bottom. So that's going to look like this. So it's almost making like a little pillar or a pedestal. I'll bring these down and draw the bottom edges. All right. So next I'm going to drop down some vertical lines from the corners here. There we go. And I'll draw in the bottom edges. I'm having a hard time getting an angle on this, so I'm going to move it up a little bit. There we go. That's a little more like it. That inverted grip was not working for Mr. Sketchy. I'm going to erase out some of the things that are being covered up now. And I'm going to darken in my edges. And then after that, we'll shade again. And we're going to shade with the light coming the same direction as the other 2. We're going to keep it consistent today. So I'm running long on time here. So I'm going to just shade this with my pencil. If you feel like it, you are welcome to do this with colored pencil or ink if you want to practice those 2. Or you could do both. You could ink it and then color it with colored pencil. Just all up to you, but I'm just going to do a quick job here and just kind of shade it in with my pencil. I'll draw my little spike again to show which way the light's going. It also shows, like I said earlier, how high up the light source is in the sky. Well, I'm going to shade this side of the whole thing. So we have a little gap in the shading on the top of that lower box because the light's going to be hitting it pretty strongly. And then we shade the top on the side as well. And now I'm going to add my cast shadow. I'm going to kind of shape it like the pillar here. I'm going to have this kind of stretching out a little bit. And I'm just going to shade that all in using the side of my pencil. There we go. We got a little column or a pedestal. You could build all sorts of buildings just using these box forms. Let's do a little example. For this one, we're going to make a little temple. You might think about like a temple in the middle of the jungle. So I'm going to start by drawing the top of a box. It's about halfway down my little drawing area. I'm going to draw a smaller box on top. It's going to be kind of sitting on top. I'm going to connect these dots together. And then draw my vertical edges. I think I'm actually going to make the box kind of get a little wider at the bottom, this top box. I'm going to maybe make that a little more angled. So it kind of starts off skinny and then gets thicker towards the bottom. I'll erase out these lines that are now being covered up. And I'm going to draw in the rest of the lower box. So we're going to have kind of a raised temple here up on top of a kind of larger box. I don't know if that made sense, but you see what I'm doing. So now I think I'm going to make like a big opening on the top. So to get up there, I'm going to give the people a little ramp. So I want this ramp to go kind of parallel to that edge up there. And I'm going to make kind of a triangle. And then I'm going to add some thickness to it. So now we got a little ramp going up. I'll erase out the things that are being covered now. And start to darken in some of these lines. I've got kind of my basic structure mapped out. I'm going to add some details, but this is pretty much the basic structure here. And now I'm going to add some like steps going up the ramp, so it's not just a ramp anymore. Now it's kind of a staircase. All right, kind of darken in all of these lines here, and then finish off the bottom and the top. I'm going to add some details now. Oh, maybe I'll shade first, actually. I'm going to make, instead of a spike, I'm going to make like a little obelisk here. That's part of the temple complex. So the light's going to be coming from over my left shoulder again, so I'll shade the right side of the temple here, as well as kind of the right side down here. I'm going to add some details after I get these all shaded. So anything that's facing that direction, I'm going to shade. I'll add my cast shadow. We don't want to forget that. So I'm kind of drawing the shape of the bottom box there, and then the top box up above. And I'll just shade all that in. All right, now I'm going to add a big, impressive sort of archway entrance. And add a little bit of thickness to the archway there to show the thickness of the wall. I'm going to add some windows on the side. You can add whatever details you want. You could even put some people in, create some sort of little scene, whatever. I'm going to shade the thickness there. And then I'm going to make it really dark inside. There's mysterious things happening in this temple, kids. But then there's also like a little bit of light going in on the floor. So yeah, something like that. I think that looks pretty good. All right, so we are all set. Here, I'm going to leave these up so you can kind of finish working on them. And yeah, I think that's it for our sketches today. Oh, wow, oh, wow, wow. Oh, wasn't that a good video, kids? Yeah, if I were a kid like you, I would have learned so much. And you know, in payment for all that knowledge, you know what I would do? I would go out and back of the old abandoned Shoney's, which currently half torn down. Finally started tearing down that Shoney's. And, oh, sorry. I would put $5 in that old coffee can there. You know, the one that says Mr. Sketchy's YouTube money and big black permanent marker. So, go on out there, because you did watch the video. so you're contractually obligated to pay me for it. That was the agreement going in. You made a binding verbal contract with me through the internet. So go find that old coffee can and put in $5. And you know what? Tips are also appreciated. So if you want to put in a little extra something, for the old sketch man, I'm not gonna stop you. So until next time, you guys, there's a train coming up now, so I gotta get back on my grind, playing my jazz ukulele. Also, don't forget about the jazz ukulele channel. It's attached to the Patreon, so you do have to pay, but it's only $50 a month, and I release a video once every 2 months or so, a new video to enjoy. So see me there, see me behind the old shonies, and have a great day, kids, and we'll see you next time. Goodbye.